Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to start and sit for Week 13. Who are the guys we want in our lineups, and who gets kicked to the curb? And to help me decide, of course, is D-Bro, Derek Brown, the king of bros, the fantasy bro, and the prop prophet himself from Betting Pros, hanging out at FP, cheating on me a little bit today, but that's okay. He'll be back with me later this afternoon on Betting Bros. It's Andrew Erickson, everybody, and we're going to run through those names for you today. And don't forget, FantasyPros.com and my playbook have all the tools to help you make those tough decisions. So make sure, if you haven't already, download that bad boy, sync all your teams. What are you waiting for? The season's almost done. Use the tools. The tools will help you be successful. So, gentlemen, let's kick things off here and let's jump right in. Let us begin with the players to sit at running back for Week 13. D-Bro, why don't you kick things off for us?
First guy I got to bring up here is Brian Robinson, and I know that people have been enamored with him over the last few weeks. The pass game role has been great. He's been producing. This is not the game, baby. This is not the game to play some Brian Robinson. Miami has been electric, amazing, top shelf against running backs. Since Week 7, the 6th lowest explosive run rate allowed, the lowest missed tackles per attempt allowed, and the other thing we saw, Gibson back in the lineup, kiboshed. Took away Brian Robinson's pass game role. So that ain't saving you, baby. You need to sit him this week.
All right, Erickson, let's go to you. Give me a running back you want to sit this week that might surprise people.
I'm going to sit Joe Mixon. You know, he's a running back that you've kind of been starting probably as an RB2 most weeks, but we saw last week what the impact of Joe Burrow not being in this offense would be for Joe Mixon, and they don't care to feed him the ball. Like, they're just like, hey, we're just going to drop back to throw and just try to see what happens with Jake Brown and try to get the ball to Jamar Chase. The Bengals are not going to feed Mixon. They didn't do it. He had 10 touches last week, and now he has a brutal matchup against the Jaguars, allowing the fewest rushing yards per game to running back. So you're hoping Mixon gets there, maybe scores a touchdown. Not likely. The total on this game is under 40 points. We don't expect a lot from the Bengals offense against the Jaguars defense overall. And he only had 2 targets last week. So you're not even getting like the dump off passes that you would get a lot of times from Joe Burrow when Joe Mixon would overcome some tougher matchups. So Joe Mixon, we got to adjust expectations with him moving forward, that he's not just, you just plug and play him every single week, especially in a bad matchup. I'm sitting Joe Mixon.
All right, D-Bro, give me another running back we should adjust expectations for this week with all the heavy buys, but also maybe not the best possible matchup.
It's got to be Kareem Hunt. I know people have looked at flexing him. He's at a red zone role. Maybe he scores a touchdown. And this is somewhat, I know some teams, this is desperation mode, and like that's the only way he's cracking your lineup. But you're in desperation mode, I'm telling you to look at other options, because Kareem Hunt last week, his snaps bottomed out. It was the second lowest, or the lowest snap rate that he's had since Week 7. 26% of the snaps. He only had 7 touches and basically no red zone role. And the other thing about this is the Rams have been a very good run defense. Since Week 7, they're allowed the lowest explosive run rate, lowest yards of contact per attempt. I want no part of Kareem Hunt this week.
All right, Andrew Erickson, who do you want no part of at running back?
Breece Hall. You know, I was looking forward to this Breece Hall schedule really opening things up for him, but that has not happened because the Jets offense is just so horrible that it's stopping any type of production we're going to get from Breece Hall, and the Falcons are a bad matchup. Second worst matchup for running backs this season, so ranking inside the top 10 in terms of fewest explosive runs allowed, because that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping Breece Hall gets a catch the pass or rips off a 50-yard touchdown, because if he doesn't do that, he's not going to get you any fantasy points because the Jets can't score touchdowns. So the Falcons are allowing the 5th fewest targets to running backs in the passing game, so I'm not even sure what his ceiling is going to be as a pass catcher out of the backfield. He's a floor play at best in a absolute gross game between the Falcons and Jets. I think the total's got to be at like 33 at this point. Like, who's going to score in this game? Like, we're going to get a 12-10 finish at MetLife Stadium, which is the opposite of Coors Field in the NFL. Look at what Breece Hall's done. The last 5 games, he has 1 top 12 finish. He's rushed for 30 or fewer yards in his last 4 or 5 games. His carries have decreased in 4 straight games. Like, I was really on board of buying low on Breece Hall probably like a month ago, thinking, okay, the schedule's easing up, he's going to break out. But the Jets' offense is just so bad that it doesn't matter. So you're hoping he catches a bunch of dump-offs from Tim Boyle. But besides that, like, you're looking at 0 upside with Breece Hall. So again, he's someone that we've been looking at as an RB1 every single week, but I finally moved him down last week, and I'm keeping him down in the rankings, like in the back end RB2 territory, not where he's ranked, I think in ECR, where he's ranked closer to RB1, where I'm like, why? Like, why is Breece Hall an RB1? Look at what he's done. So I'm going to be trying to get away from him this week.
Don't worry, Erickson. I'm going to paint a silver lining for you because, as you know, I live in New Jersey. As I'm looking out my window right now, I see on a white horse Aaron Rodgers, and he's on his way right now to MetLife Stadium.
Is he riding the unicorn?
I don't know if he can actually get up on the saddle with that torn Achilles, but that's a whole other question. D-Bro, give me another guy that you think is possibly trouble for fantasy managers in Week 13.
Oh, man. I'm here for all the Aaron Rodgers talk. Oh, man. But going to the Packers, speaking of.
Nice.
I understand that Aaron Jones is probably not going to play this week. And I also get that it's a really good matchup for A.J. Dillon. I do not want to play A.J. Dillon because A.J. Dillon doesn't do anything. Doesn't matter if the matchup is good. Doesn't matter if the matchup is bad. A.J. Dillon has been terrible this year. And if you look at all of his tackle breaking matches, I mean, even when he's had the starters run, this guy has 16 touches per game, 63 total yards. His 4 games as a starter for the Packers, RB33, RB56, RB13. Okay, that's thank you, Raiders. And RB25. I want no part of A.J. Dillon. If the Packers end up keeping pace or trying to put up points, it's going to have to be through the air. It is not going to be on the back of A.J. Dillon.
Way to depress me. I have to start him in a league because of buys this week. So thanks, Derek. Thanks for ruining my morning. Erickson, would you like to also pile on to my morning today? What do you want to do?
No, I'm not going to pile on. I mean, I got to start A.J. Dillon a bunch of spots too. And
okay, good.
Oh, you could have.
Bad luck, and it's just you kind of put him out there. He catches a couple passes, rushes for like 40 yards, doesn't score, and then you get like 8 points. Just move on.
There you go. Take your 8.
Joe is really excited for that 8 points.
I'll take it this week. I think a lot of people look at those 8 points on half PPR going, okay, give me a puncher's chance. Erickson, give me the last guy that really, if you had your druthers, would not be starting this week.
James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers' run defense has been better, improved since the return of Cam Hayward 4 weeks ago. 3.6 yards per carry allowed to running backs. Look, they've held guys like Aaron Jones, Jerome Ford, Joe Mixon less than 40 rushing yards. Conner has rushed for 60-plus yards twice in just the last 5 games played. He's not really seeing this dynamic pass-catching role that we were hoping he would see because they're starting to use other guys. DeMarcado's playing on third downs. They're sprinkling Michael Carter, who they signed after he got released from the Jets. Over his last 5 games, he has 0 top 24 RB fantasy finishes. So James Conner, it's like, okay, he's not going to get a lot of rushing yards. We're not seeing the targets out of the backfield, and he's not necessarily the guy that always gets the touchdown looks because Kyler Murray sometimes just runs it in himself. So it's just a bad spot overall for James Conner. Since he came back from injury, you're thinking, okay, maybe this guy can be a fringe RB1 for me rest of the season, but that really hasn't panned out that way. And I just don't have a lot of confidence that Arizona is going to have a lot of success overall moving the ball on the ground against the Steelers defense, especially on the road. So James Conner for me is not someone I'm looking to play this week.
Speaking of confidence on the road, have you checked your tire pressure lately? Oh, baby, that was good. If you need new tires for your car, Discount Tire is your go-to. They have exceptional service and you get a 30% shorter average wait time when you buy and book online at discounttire.com. They have this really cool feature too called Treadwell, which is an online tire buying guide that gives you transparency on the tire's performance as well as personalized recommendations based on your location and your driving habits, which if you're in a car with Erickson, those are some crazy habits there. But Discount Tire is also the largest independent tire retailer in the country, so it has the biggest selection of tires and wheels. And here's a pro tip from the experts at Discount Tire. You can prevent wear and tear and boost gas mileage by keeping your tires properly inflated. Tire pressure supports the weight of your vehicle, and it's important to check that for safety. So if it's been over a month since you last checked your tire pressure, stop by one of their local stores for a free tire safety air pressure check. Discount Tire. Let's get you taken care of. Let's get some, who should I start taking care of too? If you haven't already, again, run to fantasypros.com/start. Use the Who Should I Start tool. It's free. It's fabulous. They redid it last year, and I'm telling you, it's so easy to use. You see the percentage. You take the players you have on your team, you put them in there, and you see what the experts think. So let's play a little game, rapid fire action. D-Bro, who should I start this week? Brian Robinson or Jerome Ford?
Ugh, Ford.
Ford it is.
Oof.
All right, Andrew Erickson. I'll take another one of your guys. Joe Mixon or Devin Singletary? Who would you start here, big boy?
I'm taking Devin Singletary. 80% snap share last week. Dusted Dameon Pierce, and he's facing the Broncos. So I like Singletary.
All right, D-Bro, back to you. Kareem Hunt or Tajay Spears, who always seems to get a little work in the passing game, not much else lately.
I'm going to go Tajay Spears. I'll take talent over dust.
All right. I don't know if he's dust yet, but Breece Hall certainly is getting dusty. Breece Hall or David Montgomery this week, Erickson?
Ooh.
I mean, Dave Montgomery has significantly more touchdown equity.
Well,
That's all he has to do is score a bunch of touchdowns. So
Good
I'm taking
D-Mont.
Montgomery.
AJ Dillon, D-Bro, or Chuba Hubbard?
Ew. Oh, that's. I might have to hop off the show and go.
Chuba had some moments last week. He got some fantasy points.
I'll go Chuba. I mean,
I don't want to talk you into it. I'm just saying.
Well, you kind of have to talk me into starting one of those guys. But I'll go with Chuba only because I don't know what we see out of this backfield this week. I mean, like with the coaching staff gone, could Chuba finally have? Because Staley's gone. Miles Sanders, that's been his dude. So like. Could we see Chuba give like 80% of the snaps this week? It's possible.
All right, Erickson, I'm going to take two of your least favorite things, put them together, make you choose between them. Joe Pisapia or Derek Brown. No. James Conner or Joe Mixon, two of the guys that you don't like, but what if you had no choice? One of them's got to play.
In that scenario, I'd probably still roll with James Conner.
Okay.
I like the environment more for the Cardinals and Steelers. It's actually a game, if you look at the betting totals, it's actually been bet up when you look at the total of the game, which is rare to find with a Steelers game in any way, shape, or form. So I think that game will probably be potentially more exciting than Jaguars. I just don't need to see more Jake Browning. Like
I'm curious if people are going to hedge that.
So
I'm curious if people are going to hedge that because all the Cardinals' offense is like banged up and hurt right now.
I'm not touching the total in that game.
So
all the Greg Dortch, baby.
Dortch season.
I am not touching. Yeah, I had him last week at DFS. I am not touching the total in that game, though.
You got there on the garbage time.
You want to talk about 4 outcome games? That's a 4 outcome game. Like, I have individual player props. That's how you take that one. All right, let's get to.
Agreed.
And speaking of individual player props, make sure you check out our show on Betting Pros on Friday. Me, Erickson, the Welsh hanging out talking props. Also, yesterday's show, we talked a little predictions and some props in there, too. So, for those of you waning in fantasy, it's time to look at some wagering and have some fun that way. Let's skip to the wide receivers. Erickson, you kick us off here. Give me a wide receiver that's hitting the bench for you this week.
Cooper Kupp. I'm sick of it. I'm done. I mean, what else do we need to see from Cooper Kupp? I mean, since hot start when he first came back from his injury, last 5 games, he has been outside the top 45 weekly finishes at wide receiver. Top 45. Not like, oh, he's been like a wide receiver 3. He's like, no. Like, he's been worse. He's been like a wide receiver 4 for 5 straight games. Now, some Stafford has missed time. He's been banged up. He got banged up last week, but he still like played in the game. So I just don't know what's going on. Like, is he actually healthy? Like, I don't know.
No.
And the Rams have
I think that's an easy answer.
No.
I think it's no.
No.
So I just don't have the confidence to start him. And look at him where he has an ECR. He's like wide receiver 20 in ECR. And that's really more of a hedge ranking because we're like, we don't want to bench Cooper Kupp because of the name brand. But at the same time, like, what has he done for us lately? And Matthew Stafford had a great game last week. Cooper Kupp did nothing. Like, this offense showed us last week, they don't even need to necessarily feed Kupp like they've done in the past. He got out-targeted by Puka Nacua again. Like, this offense is not, okay, let's jam Cooper Kupp 15 targets. He had 5 targets last week, 3 catches for 8 yards. Like, I think we got to adjust expectations, and then you look at the matchup against the Browns. It's a gross matchup. I know Denzel Ward's questionable. I know Myles Garrett might not play. But regardless, it's not a matchup where last week was a great matchup against the Cardinals, and Cooper Kupp did nothing. So, for me, I just think that we were excited to start him again last week. I thought he was going to miss the game last week, and it kind of sucked that he actually did end up playing because people started him, and then he was obviously a disaster. So, look, if I have other options that I like more, like even guys that are waiver wire players, like I think you just got to get away from Cooper Kupp if you can.
Debro and I talked about this on the live stream yesterday. You can watch it back on Fantasy Pros YouTube channel under the live column. We talked about Cooper Kupp. He hasn't had a full double-digit PPR point day since week 6. So, no, he is not healthy. Debro, who else is headed to the bench in week 13 at wide receiver?
I hate to do this, but it's got to happen, guys. It's Drake London. I want no part of the Jets secondary. I know, though, we're not enamored with the offense, and maybe Atlanta can keep their offense out there a bunch because, well, the Jets can't get first downs, but it's still a bad story for Drake London. I mean, you're telling me he's got to go up 74% of his routes against DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, who are giving up 90 and 81.5 passer ratings in their coverage? Not catching passes from old Desmond Ridder? I want no part of that. Nope. All
right, back to you, Erickson. Give me another wide receiver to sit in week 13.
Keeping the trend of sitting Coopers. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper here. He's dealing with a rib injury. I mean, Do we know who's going to be the quarterback? Don't know. It could be Joe Flacco, could be PJ Walker, could be my mom. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback.
Mom's got a hell of an arm.
I mean, she does. She's got a rocket.
She's got a good arm.
Just throwing that out there. She could.
Yeah, she's not very mobile in the pocket. That's the only problem there. But other than that,
I hope it's my mom at this point. Like that's what I'm hoping for. But I just don't have confidence with Cooper. He's been a player that he's had a couple decent games here and there. Like I own Cooper in a bunch of different leagues, and it's like I just kind of have to play him sometimes because I don't have any other options. But I just look at him like, man, I don't want to play this guy. So I would just try to get away from him. I just don't think he doesn't have a ton of upside in this particular matchup. I just think he's not worth the risk of starting based on the fact that he's banged up. He's going to be playing potentially with a new quarterback or a downgraded quarterback. Just been an unfortunate season for Cooper because I think he actually is an underrated player, but he never has the same quarterback every week. It's somebody different. So that obviously hurts him. So I'm just going to try to get away from Amari Cooper.
Derek, the next sit for people might surprise you because last week he actually did perform, but you want to sit him this week. Who is it?
Christian Watson, man. And I know that, I've kept the faith and now he comes off his best game of the season and I should be buying in, right? No. I want no part of it. I do not want to play. I'm not chasing the points from last week because he's not playing the Lions secondary this week, boys. He's playing the freaking Kansas City Chiefs. And that means a possible shadow from L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed has been insane this year, boys. He has shut down a litany. We could be here for the next 10 to 15 minutes of me telling you all of the elite wide receivers that L'Jarius Sneed has shut down. I'm not playing Christian Watson. Even if you look at the coverage shell matchups, you just not lean towards Christian Watson. I'd play Romeo Doubs over Christian Watson. I got to sit him this week.
Okay. I think you're out of guys with Cooper in their first or last name, so you got to pick somebody else, Erickson.
I will pick somebody else.
Riley Cooper?
As a tease for the BP show that we're going to do later in the week, Christian Watson receptions prop is at 3.5. It's absolutely ridiculously how high that number is.
How high that number? Look,
Erickson's like, oh, that's really high to me.
He's literally had 4 catches one time all season.
Good call.
So,
good call.
Yeah, that's an easy under for me. Andrew Anderson does it again. Okay, going with my last sit at wide receiver, Chris Godwin. The Panthers are actually a really underrated defense in terms of their pass defense. They're really bad against the run, but they've actually been really strong against fantasy wide receivers, top 4 unit against fantasy wide receivers. And look, the case with Godwin is he gets 6-7 targets a week, catches 5 balls, 50 yards, but Mike Evans scores all the touchdowns in his offense. Baker Mayfield has eyes for one player in the end zone, and his name is Mike Evans, and it's not Chris Godwin. So Godwin just doesn't have any upside. He's a floor play at best, especially in half PPR. You can just get away from him, and he's not going to burn you because he's just not going to score enough touchdowns. So Chris Godwin is a sit for me.
Okay, let's move on to some of the guys at quarterback, tight end, and the defenses that might not have the best looks ahead of them. But speaking of looks, I got to say, I love the look of Debro today. You look like you run your own soap company or something like that. Between the beard and this hat, you got you just want to smell like a man. Try Debro's bars of soap. Holidays are coming, folks. Yeah. If anybody could make that work,
smell like
right?
cloves and love. It smells like cloves and love, sir.
Cloves and love. Yikes!
You got any gingerbread flavors? Gingerbread
one
pumpkin.
Definitely smells like
pumpkin
gingerbread.
season. Okay,
pumpkin season is gone, man. It is. You're way behind the 8 ball.
That's
it
fair.
Is long gone.
I don't keep up with pumpkin season. Okay,
nutmeg.
See, you just hit the nail on the head. Pumpkin season is not real, people. All you just describe every year is nutmeg season. You love nutmeg and you love cinnamon. That's all it is. You don't really love pumpkin because pumpkin's not a flavor.
Don't tell me what I love. Don't tell me how to live my life.
Too late.
No, it's definitely gingerbread and whiskey soap. I believe that's pretty much what it tastes like. So don't eat it. You should use it on your body. It smells delicious. See? He's already in. He's like, that sounds delicious.
Google's gingerbread and
baker.
whiskey.
That's what you smell like.
Soap.
All right. Let's get to the other guys to sit. Let's talk about these guys here at the quarterback position. Debro, why don't you go first here? Who do you want to brush off here, rinse, lather, repeat, and sit on the bench?
Well, I like bourbon, but I don't like Baker Mayfield this week, man. I do not want any part of Baker Mayfield. And yes, Mike Evans probably walks away with a good game in this one, but Carolina, you run the ball against them. Notwithstanding what the Titans tried to do against Carolina, you run the ball. This pass defense is the strength of their defense. I mean, since week 7, they've allowed the lowest yards per attempt, the fewest passing touchdowns, and the 7th lowest CPOE. No, do not play Baker Mayfield. Even in Superflex, I will start a positional player over Baker Mayfield.
All right, Erickson, give me a quarterback, and then we're going to bounce back to the wide receivers because I wanted to see if any of these potential quarterbacks that you don't want to play were also connecting to the wide receivers. So give me the quarterback that you also want to sit.
Well, I know Debro talked about not wanting to start Christian Watson. I don't really want to start his quarterback, Jordan Love. I know Love has been on a hot streak the last couple of weeks, but it's against really bad defenses. The Chargers he's faced, the Lions he's faced, really bad secondaries. The Chiefs, their strength is their defense. Like, that's where they're best on their defensive unit. So they're allowing the 5th fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, 4th fewest passing yards, tied for 2nd best in terms of yards per attempt faced this year. They don't give up explosive plays, and that's really where Love has made his hay the last 2 weeks, hitting Christian Watson, hitting Jaden Reed on these big passing plays down the field. I don't think that's going to happen here. So I think Jordan Love is going to regress a little bit here, even at home against the Chiefs.
All right, so now that we've talked about those quarterbacks, let's step back to the wide receivers because obviously those guys are connected to some of the others that we talked about. Chris Godwin, obviously Christian Watson. So let's talk about who should I start here, Drake London, Debro, or Christian Watson? Who do you want to start?
I'll go with Watson. I believe in Love more than I believe in Ritter.
Okay. Well, Ritter on the road has not been great. That Jets defense
Ritter
is pretty good.
overall
That's understandable.
has not been great. Yep.
Now,
Okay,
Ritter home.
Ritter home.
Made me a lot of money this year.
That's true. It's 100% true. Anderson's not lying.
Anderson.
Erickson,
get used
Cooper
to
Kupp or Puka Nakua. This feels like an easy one.
Gross. Oh, man.
Hey, you do not slander Puka Juice on this show, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
no, I know. I mean,
sacrilege.
I have them ranked back to back because I really just don't really feel. I really don't feel confident about ranking either of them. But I guess. I mean, I didn't put Puka Nakua as a sit. I put Cooper Kupp, so I guess it would be Puka for me.
Right. Well, that's why I figured it was easy. All right, so I thought that would be an easy. All right, so I'll give you another one instead. Amari Cooper or Rashee Rice? Who would you rather start this week?
Rice.
Yeah,
Rice. Okay, that was easy for you. All right, let's go back to you, Debro. Debo Samuel or Nico Collins? Who do you want to start this week?
I'll go Debo and I'll just play the total. I'm really worried about Nico, and I wrote this up in the primer. If there's somebody that gets the shadow from Patrick Surtain, I think it's Nico Collins because Tank Dell moves into the slot. Surtain's not going to go into the slot.
Okay. Erickson, how about one more for you? Chris Godwin, who you talked about before, or George Pickens?
I'm going with George Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Steelers offense this week, so I'm going to be just rolling. This is the week we start Steelers. Like, these don't happen very often, so you got to take advantage.
You're not wrong.
So, yeah, George Pickens.
We talked about it yesterday. I think Jalen Warren goes over 100 all-purpose yards, and I don't think that's a hot take. Even his split backfield, I don't think it's a hot take. Let's go.
It's so nice to see Joe on the Jalen Warren bandwagon, baby. I love it.
I thought you'd enjoy that. Let's talk about tight end. Erickson, this guy we talked about on Tuesday's show that you were not enamored with. You were talking about the under in fantasy points, the under on props for him. Who is it?
Yeah, it's Dalton Schultz for the Houston Texans. Look, he had 2 targets last week. He split more snaps with Brevin Jordan. And as we've kind of realized and found out that his really low snap share was probably related to him dealing with a hamstring injury, which he is also still dealing with. He's on the injury report this week. So again, if he's hampered by this injury, he's not playing a full snap share, then it doesn't matter that the matchup against the Denver Broncos is really good. So again, we've seen his snaps diminish when Brevin Jordan has been active, but when he was inactive is when we saw Schultz's production spike from weeks 5 through 10. So I would try to be proactive. Like if you have Schultz in your starting lineup, there's a chance also that he doesn't play or that he's limited. So I would try to be looking at the waiver wire and be like, hey, are there some guys available for me that I could potentially plug in that may have larger roles, like a Juwan Johnson, someone along those lines?
Just pick up Brevin Jordan, baby.
Play than going with, if Brevin Jordan just earns the start outright, and if Schultz doesn't play, like that would honestly be the ideal situation where you just get Brevin Jordan in the starting role and Schultz doesn't play.
Debro tight end who's sitting for you is who?
I'm going to double down here. I don't even think that he's just a sit. I think he's a drop.
I saw your tweet about that yesterday. I follow you on X.
Oh, yeah, you do. You do. I might have to interact with you there sometime.
Yeah.
It's a good place for all the alls. Kyle Pitts, what the hell has he done this year? Basically nothing.
Not his fault.
No, it's not his fault. This is not a Kyle Pitts problem. This is an Arthur Smith, a Desmond Ridder problem. But Kyle Pitts, he's tight end 19, man. Since week 6, he's gone over 50 receiving yards only once. Oh, you need one hand to count it. That's bad. I have no faith. Like, I would be starting, like, if Schultz is out this week, give me Brevin Jordan over Kyle Pitts. I have no faith. None at all. Drop it.
Okay.
So you said it's not his fault, but like Are we just gonna? I mean, some of it's got to be someone's fault, right? Like, is it
Look,
literally
if Kirk
all
Cousins
situation? Like,
look, if Kirk Cousins is the quarterback of the Falcons next year, again, I'm just pulling something out of thin air here. I think we're all excited about Kyle Pitts again, and I think this is a great time in Dynasty to buy him.
You think that he would at least do something? Like, I mean, come on. Like,
he did. He had 1,000 yards in his rookie season with Matt Ryan. Give him a standalone pocket passer.
There was nobody else on the
throw
offense.
the ball
Again,
to himself.
That's a counting stat.
He cannot throw the ball to himself.
1,000 yards might be a counting stat, but at the end of the day, for a tight end, it's a big number over a rookie season.
Erickson,
so I'm not going to throw that away.
You think that Jonnu Smith is better than Kyle Pitts right now? Because all the counting stats are better on Jonnu's side than they are on Kyle Pitts. So Jonnu Smith is able to earn targets better than Kyle Pitts this year. That's where we're going? Just asking.
I'm not saying he's better than Jonnu Smith, but I mean, look, if Kyle Pitts was really like this amazing, like he would be doing something. Like I'm just saying, like we can't just it's all the situations.
I disagree.
But at the same time,
I think Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke, and Desmond Ritter are enough to kill any good talent.
I mean, how long are we going to keep making excuses for Kyle Pitts?
Until he gets, I'll tell you what,
until he gets an actual quarterback.
When he gets an actual quarterback,
so second contract guy, so like a Delaney Walker essentially is what we're looking at.
Sure.
Like he's got to get to a new
I
team.
think he has more potential than Delaney Walker, but I think that this is a player
I think he has more potential
forward,
next year. No Arthur Smith,
if you
possibly
drop in
better quarterback.
A capable pocket passer quarterback, Kyle Pitts is a fantasy asset again. But it's not going to happen until that happens. That's
okay,
it.
But you need fantasy as in like he can be a starting tight end or like an
actual
tight end
one.
Like that's what I'm trying to get.
He could be a tight end one.
I think the range is starting tight end to huge difference maker potential. Yeah, I do think that is, as Derek likes to say, the range of outcomes is there. I do believe that because he's too good of a player. I watched him play in Florida. I know how good he is, and he's just been completely underutilized. It's the same thing when we watch Arthur Smith for the first 10 weeks of the season with Bijan Robinson. We wonder what the hell's going on.
Yeah, but Bijan was still doing stuff even while he was getting bad usage. Like he still had flashes.
That's
like,
fine.
Has not had any flashes.
Yes, but to get
Tyler
Bijan Robinson the
Allgeier's
ball,
red zone roll says hello. That's all I gotta say.
To get Bijan Robinson the ball, all you do is turn around and hand it to him. All you do is turn it and hand it to him. It's a little bit more complicated to get the ball to Kyle Pitts. You have to throw it to him, and he has to be open.
I can't believe we're having to cape up for Kyle Pitts against Anderson here. Like
Let's close things out strong here. Let's close it out with the the defenses to sit this week. Erickson, who do you want to sit at defense?
I'm going to sit the Saints defense. They're the fifth worst in terms of the DST projections this week, and I just don't expect Jared Goff to fumble the ball 3 times. Like the Lions are not a team that you really want to start your defenses against, and the Saints defense is not the same unit that it's been all year. Like Marshawn Lattimore is not going to play. Cameron Jordan might not play. Marcus May's hurt. He may not play. So and the Saints are just so overrated. Like they've been overrated all year long. The only reason we had any interest in them was because they had easy schedule, and somehow that hasn't actually translated to anything really because they're not a good team, like overall. And I'm sure Debro can attest to that as someone who follows the Saints closely. Like they're just so overrated. The only reason they're in the hunt at all is because they play the easiest schedule in the NFL. So against a legitimate team like the Lions, I want to get away from the Saints.
Yeah, not a great division again this year. We saw it last year. All right, Debro, defense, who's out? Who is it?
It's the Packers, man. Look, they're not playing Jared Goff this week. They got to play Patrick Mahomes. So, look, people might think that the Packers are a really good defense. I have not been there. I am not there. I don't care that Jared Goff made them look amazing on Thanksgiving. If you look over since week 7, they're middle of the road in basically everything. 13th in pass rating, 17th in CPOE. As well as they're not even pressuring the quarterback. They just got one of the quarterbacks in the NFL that has no feel for the pass rush on Thanksgiving. So do not chase that game and do not play the Packers.
There you have it, everybody. Those are the players to sit. Make sure you go to fantasypros.com/rankings to take a look and use the Who Should I Start tool, over on my playbook. Also, very good tool to help you really understand what's going on there and who you should be getting in your lineups and who should be kicked to the curb. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson and Derek Brown, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Buy some soap.